Well, Dr. Hartle, I want to
You can call me
welcome.
Frank.
Well,
Please.
Frank, welcome to Men's Couch. We appreciate you being on the last time with Dr. Ambrosini,
Mm-hmm.
and we had some good opening discussions on men's mental health. But today, you want to talk about ego and pride.
Yeah, I thought when we talked, you said, do you have any good topics to talk about? And I thought, well, one that I think, if we're honest with ourselves, most men, including myself, struggle with is both ego and pride. And, how that affects us in our decision making and how we treat other people and how we're willing to look. Remember we talked about last time about how life is performative?
Yeah.
And sometimes our ego and our pride has a lot to do with that.
Yeah. Do you feel that having it like ego and pride, do you feel like that can sometimes be like a block for like a lot of things, a block to admitting like weakness or admitting sometimes even that like if you need help?
Well, for sure. I mean, I think just in general, and I think this is coming down a little bit, but at least in my generation and in generations before, men were supposed to be strong and independent and this idea that you're, you don't need to talk to somebody about your problems.
Yeah.
That's especially since Vietnam and the military and is really focusing on like mental health.
The boomer generation.
Yeah. So now it's okay to say, hey, listen, I might be struggling with something, but it's I think as a male, it's harder for us to admit because we want to lie to ourselves as well as other people.
I feel like that has to do with how, like, the ego is a blocker. So we kind of like we can't see ourselves as struggling. So we might like minimize our struggle, and that leads to more struggles down the line. So I guess since we associate just struggling or like anything like with shame, that kind of that we don't want to feel that shame, so we kind of use pride to be like, oh no, everything's fine, or I'm just not going to deal with that, because I feel like admitting for whatever reason for men, admitting struggle seems to be like a blow to the ego. I don't know if you felt that before.
Oh, of course. I mean, I think anytime you sit down and talk to somebody before you really get to know them, you're a different person. But the more and longer you know somebody, the more you're willing to, if you trust them, open up to them.
Yeah.
And so you get to sort of see the real person back there. But for men, it takes a long time. To get in, into that shell. And sometimes, and I'm not stereotyping, but I think women are more likely and willing to share how they're feeling than men, right? And
is that true?
It does take takes a while to crack that shell. But I think not just in mental health. Oh, do you want to answer that for us?
I think it depends. I feel like it's okay.
Is that mic 2?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it depends. I feel like family background and culture has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
'Cause I personally grew up in a Hispanic household where it was like, you're going to cry, like, I'll give you a reason to cry.
Yeah.
And
Germans are that way too.
Yeah. You just kind of grow up that way.
Yeah. I think for I think women, I would say, I don't want to just be based on stereotypes, but in my experience, we're more open to having those honest conversations. I feel like they're more
with
prepared.
Each other, peers.
Mm.
Yeah.
They're more kind of prepared to do that, and also they're not letting that affect their self-image. So.
Yeah, I think women are more likely to open up with other women more.
Yeah.
But I feel like from what I don't know if this is true, but I feel like men can sometimes even with other men not open up.
Mm-hmm.
No,
as well.
I think I don't think they.
Yeah.
I think for the most part they don't.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think you have to really, really know somebody and have that trust. I mean, it's almost like who's going to go first type thing.
Yeah.
For men, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then once that's broken, then they'll be more willing to share. But not only in mental health or struggles, but also just having fun.
Yeah.
There's this idea that we have an image to uphold and protect, And so, like, if you go to a wedding and people are just being goofy and dancing, there's a voice inside your head that says, maybe I would look stupid if I did that. Or I really want to have fun, but I don't want to look dumb. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like we have like that like Batman, that Bruce Wayne like kind of like exterior thing. We have that like archetype of a man, so that is like very stoic and can't like shift emotions. So we feel like we can't feel those things, or we feel like we like something's holding us back from like experiencing it. So, and I think that's like, I think a lot of the times like with men, there's a lot of like anxiousness and restlessness with sharing things, and also because that like there's a big ego blocker that doesn't allow us to fully express ourselves. So I feel like that like pride gets in the way of like, how do I look? How am I like appearing to other people? That gets in the way, and then we kind of like suppress that, and it's like I'm not gonna do that.
Right.
Gonna, like,
same with learning new things, maybe, or trying new things. I mean, athletes, I think, are better at this than men in general, but they're okay with failing and trying and keeping going, you know. But like if I don't want to embarrass myself and I want to try to learn something new, I would try to do it in secret and get at least a baseline before I expose my, you know, my abilities to anybody else, which I think is that is pride getting in the way.
I don't know. Like for me, I joke with my friends like when it comes like to cooking and stuff.
Stubborn.
I'm super like stubborn and I'd say I'm conservative. Like I keep everything to my family recipes. So I don't know if it's like a pride thing where I'm like afraid of trying something different, or like I don't know, because like I'm super like very like when it comes to like ingredients, I would rarely add something new or try something different. But I think
that might just be OCD, not pride.
Well, I don't want to go. I could do a whole podcast on OCD, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It could be it, but I think pride is sometimes we feel like pride protects us from certain emotions that come up when someone is like addressing something within us that we don't want to, like, we're already sensitive about something, so that like pride can show up in like anger, like why are you talking about this?
Yeah. And no, I mean that actually leads me to why men in general get in fights with each other.
Yeah.
Right? Because that pride and ego gets in the way of hearing things that you don't want to hear, or just being able to say in your mind, like, who is this person? Why do they matter? Like, why what they're saying does not have any bearing on my life or where I go from here. So why am I getting emotionally involved in this, right?
Yeah.
But being able to step back from that is hard for a lot of men in the moment, anyhow.
Do you think that like the relation between like men getting in fights with each other is like kind of like I'm a pride thing of like I'm trying to look like the stronger guy?
Of course, yeah, they don't want to be the beta, I guess, or the you know, like they're, especially if their other friends are there, right? They want to show all the. But really, to me, the older I get, the more that none of that matters.
Yeah.
Right. Especially because I had a whole career in law enforcement. So talk about not backing down, right? In some cases you just can't, right?
Yeah.
But the older I get, if someone came up to me right now and, you know, with a bunch of my friends and challenged me to fight, I would just laugh and be like, man, I'm not into that. You know what I mean? Like, whereas 20 years ago, I'd be like, let's do it. You know what I mean? Let's go for it. You know, I think it's a mindset, because before you're challenging me in front of my friends, and that is a non-negotiable decision for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like and now that I'm older, I'd be like, okay, let's think about this for a minute. Why are you here? What did I do? So what was such an affront to you that we need to come to physical blows, right?
So not just like physical, but does it also like relate to like verbal fights, like maybe like debates or like?
No, debates I think are healthy as long as they're done the right way.
Yeah.
Verbal fights, I think, can be healthy depending on the outcome.
I think like depending on the motivation.
Right.
I think people sometimes get into verbal fights like prove a point that they like. It goes back to like the pride and ego thing. They're trying to prove a point about themselves or like about like an idea that they have. But I feel like if you just have like a genuine conversation, it will be better than like trying to prove your point.
Sure. And I think sometimes, you know, the idea that you have to win the argument is central in what started it, or in the fact that it won't end because somebody doesn't want to be that person,
Mhm.
not to have the last word,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, if you accept beforehand that
Mhm.
despite this conversation we might not agree,
Yeah.
then you're probably more willing at the end of the argument to walk away from it.
Yeah, I think sometimes men, out of pride, we want to make people get on the same page as us, because we feel that our way is like the highway, or
Mhm.
like our way is like the only way. So we try to like convince other people of that, and that gets into like, I think that's what starts like a lot of arguments.
Right.
So
No, I agree. Go ahead.
would you say that it's the idea of like speaking to be right and not speaking to be understood or understand?
Yeah, I would say like speaking to be right over being understood as more of like a pride thing. Like I'm arguing with you because I want to validate the idea in my own head that I'm right. So like I need to convince you that I'm right. So it like kind of like is kind of like a validation thing, which I think comes from insecurity. Like if you don't feel secure in like what your beliefs are, or like whatever the argument is, then I feel like you're more
Compensating?
you're trying to get you're gonna like get more into the argument to try to satisfy that like ego and like that insecurity.
I think one thing that I learned as a leader over the last 40 years, I had a really good, I'm 57, I'll be 56, I'm sorry, in January. So I know I look young, don't I?
You do.
Yeah.
But what I think is a very wise leader of mine once said, wait 3 days before you respond. So if you're in a leadership position, somebody comes in and they're a friend to you, or they do something silly, or they make you angry in some way,
Yeah.
it does you no good to go back and write an email or call them right away, because you're responding with emotion at that point.
Yeah.
In law enforcement, it's really hard not to get emotional in response. But if you wait 3 days, and I've been using this ever since, there's a lot of clarity that comes to you. And so you can respond in kind, but maybe not with anger, but with facts.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, me specifically, like I feel the need to respond. I don't know if it's a pride thing, but I feel the need to respond like right away. Like, how dare this person like say this? Like, how dare they like cross the line? So I feel like I need to respond like right then and there. And I think a lot of it is like, like as men, we feel like we need to use our anger as like, which some cases like I can see, but we feel like we need to use our anger as like sort of like a protective thing against our pride, and keep going back to pride. Like, how dare this person say this or do this? So we feel the need to immediately respond without like taking into consideration the situation. And also I feel like a lot of men aren't patient with processing things. So telling someone to wait 3 days is like, to men, it's like I'm not doing anything about the situation.
But you have to understand too, this is probably before. This was only when email was out, so there wasn't like instant messaging, there wasn't text, there wasn't social media like we have.
Yeah.
So you couldn't respond. You could email right away.
Yeah.
But it's even harder now because we have all of these ways to reach out and touch somebody right away. But I still think even if you wait a day and a half, your response is going to be better than going like right then, like, okay, we're fighting. And then to make it public is really where things start going south. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Private arguments are one thing, but public arguments are totally. Because again, you look, to everybody else who seems to be monitoring whatever, platform you're on and arguing. Now you feel like, okay, I have to respond because I have to convince everybody else that's listening that I'm right, not just the person I'm arguing with.
Yeah. Also, I think it's also like if you don't respond, we feel that we're like kind of like the weaker person, that we don't have like a strong backbone. So I feel like having that sense of, okay, I'm just not going to respond, I'm going to just be patient with the situation. To us, that feels like it's like another blow to the ego. It's like the other guy is just going to think I'm like weak, or like I don't have a backbone. So I think that like fear and mindset kind of triggers the anger to us make a reaction that makes the situation worse. So.
It does, but I think if you did not respond, I think you'd find that the other person you're arguing with would have these spontaneous utterances that would make their side look even weaker because you're not responding, but they keep piling on because they want a response from you, and you're not giving it to them. So you're actually in a position of power, but you don't feel like it because you're not responding to it. Yeah. And then when you do respond to it, you do it on your time, and you have a well-reasoned response.
Yeah, you have versus being if you're more emotionally dysregulated, then you're gonna say off the wall
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I know you don't like the words crazy, but it's true. I've been so mad that I've said things and I'm like, did that just come out of my mouth? Why would I even say something like that, right?
Yeah. So. Looking back on those moments, do you feel that if you were to how would you compare your reaction to versus if you waited a few days?
I think if I wait a few days, I'm not worried about what affront was on me. I'm more worried about the facts involved in the argument. Mm-hmm. If I respond right away, I'm defending whatever insults that are coming my way before I even get to the main crux of the conversation.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like ego gets in the way of in a lot of relational dynamics, arguing and just how quick we are to feel the need to fix a situation. I feel like that too contributes to a lot of arguments. We feel like we need to fix something, but it doesn't really our mindset. I feel like as men is that we need to instantly fix something because it needs to be fixed
in our minds. It needs to be fixed. And I think that I agree with you. And sometimes we just got to let people just want you there and present. They don't necessarily need you to fix it. And we have to kind of decide okay, do you want me there? Or do you want me to try to find a resolution for you? Well, again, it's the ego in us. We don't ask. We just assume that we're going to fix this and it's going to be okay, right?
Yeah, it's that superhero complex. Right. So it's I'm just going to come into the situation. I know what your situation is about. I'm just going to, project my perspective on the situation without listening. I feel like listening is another thing that's hard for men to do because we feel that listening isn't doing anything or being present isn't doing anything, but it actually does a lot more than we think.
I think I agree 100%. I'm terrible at listening. In fact, you can't see it, but I took my watch off and I put my phone down because it's buzzing, and if I feel it or see it, I'll look at it.
Yeah.
And then my attention is away from what we're doing here, right?
Yeah.
So I have to purposely do that in order to make sure that I'm present with everybody here.
Why do you think men struggle with pride and ego?
I think it is a cultural thing.
Yeah.
I think it is something that cultural, we get it from our media, right? We get it from the stories. We get it from things we've heard from our parents, right? From Batman, right? The story arc is something bad happens to this person, and this person becomes the hero that has to respond.
Yeah.
Right? And very rarely do you have seasoned, reasonable people in movies that are trying to think through their problems. They're just reacting, right?
It's kind of an impulse. They do something impulsive, but it doesn't actually fix the situation. It just it's based on impulse. So, do you think that it's also that men feel pride kind of protects shame, or they're kind of intertwined?
Yeah, no, I think nobody wants to feel shame.
Yeah.
Right? I think so. We try to protect ourselves from that as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I think we do feel shame, but we don't want to ever admit it to others or ourselves. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If we struggle with something, most times we struggle with silence.
Yeah.
Because we're ashamed of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then to everybody else, we're perfectly fine. Because we're burying that down deep, right?
Yeah.
But last time we talked about accountability partners, right?
Yeah, I feel like Going off that, I feel like accountability partners are like extra hard for men because of that shame and pride factor.
They are. They're hard, but they're essential
Yeah.
because if you trust somebody, if you find an accountability partner that you can trust, and they trust you, and I know you're not Catholic, but it's almost like going to reconciliation or confession, right?
Yeah.
You're not confessing that you're doing, but you're saying, hey, I'm struggling with this. And you would not believe, and you may have experienced, how much better you feel.
Yeah.
By just telling somebody. They don't need to fix it.
Yeah.
And you need to let them know. I'm not telling you to fix it, but I just want you to hear it.
Yeah.
So that I'm dealing with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we could teach men to find somebody that they trust and that they can share these things with, I think that men mentally would be a lot healthier.
So are you Catholic?
I am.
So going off that, so how do you feel that like being Catholic or just being like a believer in general, how do you feel that affects your relation to sharing things and how that like influences pride?
Well, believe it or not, men still struggle.
With
pride, even when they talk to God.
Yeah.
Right. And in my belief, God sees everything.
Yeah.
Right? And so I had, and I think a lot of other men have to sit down, if you are a believer, and say, okay, if God sees everything, I can have a real conversation with Him.
Yeah.
I don't need to have a flowery dissertation because it's all
Prayer,
just
flowers.
fluff.
Yeah.
It's just hey.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm struggling with this, and I messed up again, and I don't know what to do. If you could put someone in my life to help me figure this out,
Yeah.
right? But more importantly, I think being a Catholic, knowing that when you're going to fail and you're probably going to fall down again, the fact that you can get back up and just keep walking is probably the biggest lesson that I learned.
Yeah. I feel like, do you feel like the sense of like shame and pride is sometimes heightened for believers, like men specifically?
I do, but I think because we're putting pressure on ourselves to live up to the saints and as other people have gone before. But if you really know what's going on, you know that this is an impossible mission.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the God knows it's an impossible mission.
Yeah.
And that you're going to fail, and that's why you go to Him every night.
Yeah, that's why
right?
that's why we need Him. Yeah.
Right. And so like that is liberating to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's not liberating is I used to be a different denomination, and I won't go into what that one is, but it was like everybody had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Nobody. And if you stood up and said, "Hey, I'm struggling with this," like people would talk about you, and then your kids couldn't play with their kids, right? But that's not the reason you go. You go because you're sick, not because
you
you're
go
perfect.
to church. Like I think like explaining to people that are curious about church or just in general, I think people still have the mindset that church is for like holy people or like people that are perfect, but it's church is like to receive healing.
Right. And that's how you should look at it every time you go in. Just be like, okay, I'm a broken person. I'm here.
Yeah.
I
feel like for me, like specifically as a believer, I feel like sometimes we talked about this on the other show, but I feel like I'm not like, I don't know if I would say like spiritually like enough. Whereas like I feel like other believers present like this sort of like this way of, oh, I know like the Bible, or like I know this, or like I'm mature in this area. I feel like that like creates like a shell of pride if you don't feel that.
Yeah. No. There's stories all over the Bible of people who are prideful in their own faith.
Yeah.
Right. And relying on their own wisdom that they think God gave them. Right.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are failing all the time because they're boastful. Right.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I think we've all been there. I think no matter where you are in your life, whether it's religious or otherwise, you have looked at another person and said, "I'm better than that person."
Yeah.
Which is a terrible thing to say.
But
it's true,
it's
right?
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a level of pride.
Yeah.
Right. and you know, instead of looking at that person and saying, which oftentimes is unrealistic and impossible, but because you can't look at everybody and say, what can I do to help that person,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you should,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you know, and if that's your calling, then go for it. If you can sort of, and I think you're kind of doing that with this podcast, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? But but you know, it's really hard for me to grow up, and I say grow up in my profession. Prior profession was in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Is all we do is judge.
Mm.
All we do is judge. Go from one place to the next. Make judgments,
Yeah.
right? And
So
we
do
have
you
discretion.
Do you feel like the constant judgment in an environment, whether it be like a workplace or like a family, kind of creates like a sense of feeling shame where you can't like share anything, and that kind of creates like a wall of pride. So you look like, oh, I have my life together, because like these people are like kind of already judging. I don't want to like reveal something that's gonna make them judge me more.
You mean as a law enforcement officer, or just in
Or
general?
I guess like in general, yeah.
No,
But-
I think we lie to ourselves about who we are
Yeah.
and what we're about internally.
Mm-hmm.
So we put on these fronts,
Mm-hmm.
and we say, I'm this person, look at me, I'm great. But internally, we're like, I'm not this person, I'm a fraud.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And somewhere in between is the truth.
Yeah, I think
You know what
I
I
think
mean?
people don't think that way. I think people think it's like black and white. It's like I'm either like so terrible, or I'm either like the greatest person, or the greatest, like the most skilled person. It's like I feel like people struggle with like that balance of like a self-esteem, where they can just be have a mixture of sometimes I'm like okay, but other times like sometimes I'm just like
Yeah. But I think pride and ego is a defense mechanism too. And if you look deeply at like the most successful people in the world, I think they secretly struggle with the idea that they're not as good as they say they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's like I feel like there is like a huge difference between like how people what they say, and then like how they actually like view themselves. I know Dr. Ambrosine kind of talked about like that like imposter syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, am I as good as I say I am, or
Mhm.
am I like, is this like just like a performance?
Right.
So I think that's where like a lot of men's identity issues come from, is they either, I feel like they either struggle with like failure because it's like a blow to the ego, or they don't think they're as good like in their work.
I think, and I don't know how to put this, but I think pride and ego we talked about can be a stumbling block.
Yeah.
But thinking that you're not as good as somebody else is almost being humble, which
Mhm.
which is something we should be,
Yeah.
right? You can
Yeah.
still be very good at something, but be humble about it.
Yeah.
And I think I struggle with that as well too. I try to be as
Yeah.
humble as possible. But when people are
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, you're great, you do this," not everybody tells me I'm great, but I'm just saying as an
Yeah.
example, like you're really in this. It starts to get in your mind and it plays to your ego, like I am great, I am great,
Yeah.
and so you have to tell yourself that tomorrow you could not be here and somebody else would take this and be just as good at this. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's healthy.
Yeah, I think having that like healthy sense of humility, I think people struggle with like what is humility. I think people feel that humility is like putting yourself down, but
Mm-mm.
humility is like just recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, and I think being open about that. I think men struggle with being like open about, or being humble enough to be open about their strengths and weaknesses, because we feel like, okay, I like if I share a weakness, then they're just going to see me differently.
Yeah, I think too. If you think about being humble, you also think about the fact that where you are, you did not get there by yourself,
Yeah.
and so other people had a place and they helped you get there.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't buy into your own sort of fantasy that I did this all my. Hey, there might be
Yeah.
cases where you did do it all yourself,
Yeah.
but it's really really healthy to let other people tell you that this is great, you're doing great things, then going out and advertising in your own way how great you are, and why people should think you're great.
Yeah.
And that's when you're trying to market yourself. There's a really thin line there.
Yeah.
Between pride and humility and all these things. So
I think that's why men like to do things by themselves versus like ask people for help or like involve other people in it, because that sense of like ownership. I need to take ownership of
want
this.
credit over all of it.
Yeah, I need to take ownership over this project or what I'm working on. So asking other people for help, it's like they feel like they lose a sense of ownership. So
yeah, it's not gonna be done exactly the way they want it to,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's difficult.
yeah, for me, it's like it kind of is like as with cooking. It's like I don't know. I prefer to cook by myself, but sometimes I'll have like people help. So it's just, I think it's like more of, for me, it can be like, I don't know what it is. I guess it's like, maybe it's like a fear of like change, like changing something that I feel like I always need to be so like black and white with everything that like any like change kind of like throws me into like a spiral or something. I don't know.
I'm the opposite. If I cook, I just experiment. I just throw stuff in there until it tastes good. And then I do it. I do have recipes that I like to follow, but if it's my turn to cook and it's just very rare, and I look in there and there's some chicken and some other stuff, I'm like, okay, I'll make this work. We'll figure this out, right? We'll make something work.
Yeah. So I think what are some hidden ways that pride shows up?
That's a good question. I think if pride interferes with your relationships, right? I think that's a big trigger. That's something that should be like a big flag.
Yeah.
If you don't let others in to see the real person because you're trying to put on this front, or if you truly believe you're like delusional, right, that you're this person when in fact you're not, and you won't let people in because you don't want them to discover that, or you're afraid that they'll discover that.
Yeah.
That can be a big. And also, pride. If someone doesn't want to hear you or listen to you, like you're trying to tell them something that's going to be helpful to their lifestyle or their health or their career, and they don't want to hear it because
you need
they
to go see a doctor,
right? Like they know because they know better.
Yeah.
Or their pride is such that how could that happen to me?
Yeah.
That would be something that I would be concerned about.
Yeah. So there's like a few points. So you're saying pride gets in the way of relationships, and also pride is like sort of sometimes a blocker to hearing things that like could actually help you. Like if Angie were to say, okay, I think you should go see a doctor, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm fine. Like I don't need to go see a doctor. Like why do you see a doctor? That I think that I feel like that's why like sometimes men's health can be like sometimes worse because we either prolong or we just like let things. We say like, okay, I can handle this.
Why do you think that is?
Pride.
Right, because like we're vulnerable when we go to a doctor.
Yeah.
The doctor doesn't see Frank Hartle. He just sees a patient, and he's going to tell you, or she's going to tell you exactly what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
They're not going to filter it. They're not going to make it nice, and they're going to be like, hey, they said it to me, your cholesterol's high. You need to go on a diet. You do all these other things, right?
And we probably don't want to hear that.
We don't want to hear it. Yeah. So we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that I learned about pride was, I think if we shower other people and say, like, your children, I'm very proud of you for your effort and for all these other things, that's a healthy pride.
Yeah.
But when it's an internal pride, like I'm the best at A, and athletes, I think they struggle with this because athletes are good. That's why they're collegiate athletes and professional athletes. They are the best in the world, right?
Yeah.
But if you watch during like after games and stuff, and they talk, they're always talking about their teammates and
how
they're giving and they're thanking God, or these they're deflecting that pride, right?
Yeah,
and that glory, which I think is really healthy.
Yeah, I think sharing.
That was me. Sorry.
I think sharing glory and sharing like an accomplishment is very important, because we're not like no one's an island. So I think if men learn how to like share the accomplishment instead of like saying to themselves like, well, I did this, I put all the effort in. I feel like if we say more like I couldn't have done it without like Frank and Angie, then that would be more of like that's more of sharing the accomplishment, and it's not like it also puts the pressure off yourself to like live up to this like image that you've created. So if you're saying like, okay, I couldn't have done it without Angie and Frank, then you're saying that I can't do it by myself, and therefore I shouldn't put all the pressure on myself to be perfect at whatever it is I'm doing.
Right. And there's a weird dichotomy too. I think we touched on this last time about when we have to write something good about ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Even though we have this idea that we're putting up fronts and prideful and ego fronts, when you say, okay, write me like 20 good things that you've done. Now all of a sudden we're vulnerable in ourselves. Now we get to talk about all these great things,
Yeah.
and it becomes uncomfortable.
It feels weird.
Right?
Like,
So you go from this like external, like, hey, look at me, I'm great, to all of a sudden,
yeah.
oh no, I got to write about myself.
To me, like I've always struggled with receiving compliments. I always feel like, or like believing compliments. I feel like that's like a huge thing is, like believing that what people say about me is like actually true. Because sometimes like my internal mindset is that, well, I'm not actually that great as like they say. So I think like there's like that receiving compliments can be like difficult, especially if men have like a perfectionistic mindset on like goals.
Mm-hmm.
So if you accomplish something, then and people like like if people are compliment on you, then it's like is this actually true?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of men too.
yeah.
I mean, we like to hear it. It's just uncomfortable to respond to it sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've given people compliments, and it's not like, yeah, that's true. I am great. You know what I mean? People.
Yeah.
There's a real problem if that's the way people are responding to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Not the greatest.
Yeah.
What do you feel? How do you feel that pride shows up in Gen Z men versus your generation? Because with the influence of social media.
Well, like you said, I think I'm somewhat qualified to answer this. And I teach in a university, and I have 5 boys.
Yeah.
Men. They're all men. They're 18 and older.
Yeah.
I think they have been on camera since the day they've been born. They've been recorded. They're recording themselves. They're putting themselves out there. And I think Gen Z men, and not all, but some struggle to actually portray the real person. Like I think they're trying to be what this other person was, or what they think people want to see, whether it's in a dating scene or on social media or at school or even at home, right?
Yeah.
Like if I sit my kids down and I start talking to them about how are you feeling mentally, are you happy, what's going on, they get super uncomfortable. I mean, I think if they went in the other room and I texted it to them, I think it'd be a little bit better because they're not looking at me. But a dad should be able to have that conversation. Like my dad never had that. I love my dad, but he never said, "How are you feeling mentally? Are you happy?" Or things that, And I know he wanted me to be happy, but we never had that conversation. So, and when I bring students in, and I told you, like I ask students all the time, how are you doing?
Yeah, like how are you actually doing?
Right, how are you doing? Like just you and me.
I feel like people are used to when people say like how are you doing, I think to them it's like how are you doing with like your schoolwork, or how are you doing with like on your job or whatever.
Right.
But like how are you actually doing is different.
Right. If you ask somebody how are you happy?
Yeah.
Right? I see in there like they short circuit a little bit, like how do I answer that? Like I don't know how to answer that. Maybe you're not happy, but maybe you're not sad. Maybe you're in between.
Yeah.
Are you content? But tell me where you're at right now. You know what I mean? And because I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be like happy all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to be melancholy.
I think it's also like a different approach to life. I think I don't know who it was. My professor went to like a different country, and they usually don't like ask how you're doing in the way that we do and the Americans do. It's more of like they don't ask about like your work or your major or whatever. It's more of how are you doing? Like how's your family? How are you doing? I think one of it was like hobbies. How are you doing with like emotionally? Is more of like geared toward the person, and I think that's super helpful. Not saying that like asking about your like how you're doing on the job is bad, but I think that like overrides how someone's doing like internally.
Right. I think that's I don't know. As Americans, we're obsessed with what we do for a living,
Yeah.
and that plays a lot into our ego and pride. Like, there was an author named Grossman, and he does a lot of stuff on like use of force and stuff. But he talks about when he goes places, he makes a point to say thank you to like the janitors and the
Yeah.
cleaners and stuff like that, because they're the ones doing the real important work.
Yeah.
He's just up there talking, and they also maybe picture themselves as not as important. When in
Yeah.
fact, they are probably the most important people there.
Yeah.
Right? The sound person, right? The people putting all this stuff on.
Yeah.
And I think that's a healthy perspective for us too, because it's not about what we do for a living. Like,
Mhm.
what are you doing to be happy?
Yeah.
Is not what do you do for a living? Those are two different questions. But as
Yeah.
men, I guess if we wrap our pride and ego in that, we assign what we do for a living as
It's like
more important to who we are than who we really are.
yeah, I think I guess it also gets into the performance mindset. Is like, if I'm doing well in the job, or like if I have a job, if I'm like, if I have a certain position on the job, that like we associate that with how well we are like mentally.
Mm-hmm. Or successful we are.
Yeah. So I think men need a different definition of success, because I think that's like as not that okay. So not that those things aren't bad, like they're not bad. I just think like we need like a more, I guess, varied definition of success, like more so like, like how are you doing with your relationship, or like
Yeah.
your friends or family.
Well, I think this might be a provocative statement, but I think if I look at Gen Z compared to Gen X, I think it's less important for Gen Z what people do for a living than Gen X. I think Gen Z are more willing to say, I'm going to enjoy my life
Yeah.
over this job.
Yeah.
Where Gen X, we're like, I'm going to work until I'm 65, and then I'm going to enjoy the best 10 years of my life before you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was just a
Yeah.
totally different mindset. And I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it seems to be.
How do you feel about that? Because I'm
trying to think.
I'm trying to think about that, because there is like that mindset, like now of like not like we don't define happiness by like traditional things like go to college and some people like go to trade school and stuff. So there is that, and then there's the like then I don't that's like I don't know if it is. I think it is different. Like maybe Gen Z might have more freedom to not focus so much on the job, but find that like meaning and purpose is better than just trying to find like a job.
Yeah, I think what I hear from employers, I don't think it's necessarily negative. Maybe it's negative to them. But the people that they're hiring now coming out of college are putting more emphasis on life outside of work,
Yeah.
right, than life in work and maybe being promoted and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they're interviewed, they're like, okay, how much vacation do I get? What is my upper mobility? What kind of money am I making, right? As opposed to, I'm going to get in there on the bottom floor and I'm going to work my way up. I'm not going to ask about money. That was the mindset when I was younger,
Yeah.
So
I think it's true, because maybe Gen Z, we might want to be more holistic, like have a more like well-rounded life and not just like focus solely on a job. But I think like also at the same time we have like so many definitions of purpose and happiness coming our way through social media that we feel like our life doesn't measure up.
right.
So
Yeah, there's the idea that you have to keep up with what's
Yeah.
going on,
yeah.
and that's just a fallacy.
Yeah.
Because half the things online are just not true.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than half now. They're just all made up, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm a YouTube.
I watch a
addict.
lot of YouTube.
And people are rebuilding chateaus, and they're doing engineering, and I like that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And that's cool because you can see them doing this. on the flip side, there's these people living this wonderful life and every day super happy. And I'm just looking at that saying, this is not real life. Like, this is not, like, why are they not showing all of it?
Yeah.
That would be, to me, a better YouTube channel than, look how rich I am. Look at this car that I have.
Yeah.
Look at my perfect children. Look
I sometimes like see those things where like of like content creators like are having like billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I feel like people really crave authenticity. They crave that, so they don't want like seeing that just makes them feel like their life is less, because people truly crave authenticity. Because if they see like a leader or a content creator being honest and authentic, then that makes them feel more connected to reality.
Right. And if you're vulnerable, if you're that person who's on whatever screen and you're vulnerable, you're going to connect with a lot more people.
Yeah.
Instead of putting on this, puppet show that you're doing.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's hard to do that because, like, whenever there's, like, influencers doing stuff that is vulnerable, it's like, oh, well, he's just fishing for attention, or, like,
Yeah.
he just
Plus
wants
the trolls
this.
are out there, too. But
The trolls.
You're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you don't care what people think, it's such a liberating way to live.
Yeah.
I didn't live that way for, like, a long time. And then I started, my children started moving into high school, and I started explaining to them, the people that you see in high school, and when you graduate in 10 years and you look back, they're going to be totally different people. Like, none of that matters. Like, all of this stress and pressure that you have to be perfect and say the right things and wear the right clothes, none of it matters. Just be authentically you, and you'll be very happy. Because you're starting in high school. I had to wait until my 30s to figure that out, right? So you're going to start 15 years before me.
What changed? What made you change?
I think I just decided I don't like my pride. I think I was just like, you know what? I'm not worried about what people think of me.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't matter. Like, I care if people think that I'm failing and that failure is somehow going to affect my family or my health or whatever. I care in that respect.
Yeah.
But if somebody says, oh, well, Frank's hair's thinning, I know it's thinning. But, I don't care. Like, I'm me. You know what I mean? Like, nothing's going to change that. And maybe I'm not wearing the right clothes, or I'm driving this. I don't care. Like, people can talk about me. And I actually say, okay, listen, there's a purification in those conversations. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing that bothers you so much about me, right? That you feel like you need to make a comment on it. Maybe there's a nugget of truth in there that I can find. Yeah. Other than that, I'm okay.
Yeah, so. I definitely cared a lot about what people thought of me, because like the wearing like certain clothes and wearing certain shoes was a huge thing in high school. I don't know if other Gen Z men can relate to that, but there was like this thing called like shoe game. If you had like certain shoes, you were cool. But I don't know. It would lead to me like spending like over like $120 on certain shoes. Where now, like in college, I'm like fit like $45. I think the shoes that I got from Going was like $45, and it's like, why did I spend that? I spent that much money because I wanted to look so cool,
right?
And I was cared so much about pride and like that like association of you spend a lot of money on this, so you're kind of like you're high on like the social class of high school, which like cares.
Yeah, right.
Like, but I think I don't know. I guess like we kind of do that in different ways as we progress throughout our life. Whether it's like we tell someone like our major, or like we get a certain type of car. I know my dad is like kind of like obsessed with like certain types of cars. So I feel like we do that in different ways, or like we have like a watch or whatever it might be, or it could be like I think for a lot of young men is like the idea of having like a girlfriend. That like the idea of having a girlfriend is like seen as like, oh, this contributes to like me feeling like good about myself, or like how other people view me.
Right. You somehow successfully hunted down and captured a girlfriend.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's just like
Yeah, almost as if it were like an accessory
yeah.
to their ego or whatever.
Yeah, or it's like who you associate with. It's like I guess more so like in high school, but like even I don't know if it's like I don't know. You can attest as like an older adult. It's like who you associate
What do you
with.
mean by older?
I know. I was
Like
like,
an older.
I'm just kidding.
I
That's
know.
fine. That's fine. No, I,
Like-
I was just gonna say like it's a difference when you have a girlfriend to when you're married. Like I've been married. I'll be married 30 years in July. And you know, when I first got married, of course I was the typical. I'm protecting my wife. I'm gonna protect my
Yeah.
family, and I still feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like. I would see terrible things at work. I
Mhm.
would do terrible things at work because I had to.
Yeah.
My wife didn't know any of it. I didn't
Yeah.
share any of it with her because I didn't want her to have to worry about that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. But the longer we're married, and this is very healthy, I think. Now we just share everything. Like it doesn't matter whatever we're feeling, whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'll be like, "Hey, I'm in a bad mood today. I don't know why. Just let you know. You might
Yeah.
want to just give me some space," and she'll say the same, right? If we're anxious or upset or sad or whatever, we just talk about it because I
Yeah.
think time and relationship will do that. If you can wait it out and you're with the right person who can hear it,
Yeah.
and again, not have to give you solutions, but just hear it,
Yeah.
it works out, I think.
I also like it also allows you to be human. I feel like when either we get into like relationships, whether it be like family, friendships, or like marriage, I feel like we kind of dehumanize ourselves when we kind of portray this version of ourselves that where we can't like be anxious, we can't like have like a day that just like I'm feeling crappy today. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if it's I know like definitely for men I don't know like how it is for women, like you feel like the pressure to like keep like this certain like facade and because you don't want it's like you don't want to disappoint other people. It's like I don't want to disappoint them because you like view the other person as like you view the other person highly, so you don't want to disappoint them in a way. I don't know if it like starts in family where like you don't want to disappoint your parents, so you like carry that mindset into adulthood. I don't know.
I don't. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think a lot of things probably start out in childhood
Yeah.
and they just carry on. Like, I feel like a lot of who a person is can be formed out like through
Yeah.
their childhood and their family background or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think tried really hard to tell my kids, never tell my kids I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah.
I've always just said I'm disappointed in your decisions or I'm disappointed in what you've done
Yeah.
because I don't want them to think that somehow they let me down,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've always made it a point to say you don't need to be anything like me.
Yeah.
You can be whatever you want, right? As long as you can leave here and feed yourself and clothe yourself and you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I have no set expectation for your
Mhm.
success. And I want you to be successful.
Mhm.
I think you can be successful, but that success is dependent on you.
On what you
What you wanna do,
define
right,
as
yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
Do you feel that sometimes that's where like pride begins is like if children feel that they don't want to disappoint their parents, then they feel like they develop this sort of pride where I have to like achieve, I have to be like the best at everything, so that like they kind of carry that in adulthood where they feel like I need to be like the best at everything. So instead of having that like secure base, like where with you and your family, you're like you just because you have a different definition of success doesn't mean like you're like any less.
Mm-hmm.
So that rhymed. That rhymed, but
Dr.
but it's like they it's like they put a lot of pressure regarding like I don't want to disappoint my parents, so they kind of like carry that throughout like
Well,
adulthood.
particularly if parents are ones that will feed into the ego and pride.
Mm.
You are the
Okay.
best. You're better than everybody in your team. You should have been
Yeah.
starting.
Yeah.
You know, your SAT scores are low, but you're smarter than that, and you should have
Yeah.
done better. You know, and you absolutely are programming a child
Yeah.
to grow up thinking they're better than everybody else and having
Mhm.
pride. If you're continually telling them that they're better than everybody else and that they should, because that's how they're sponges.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
absorb that
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
And now it's hardwired. It's like hard-coded in us to
Yeah.
believe that. And we have to, like, learn our way out of it, I think, at some
Mm.
point.
Yeah, it's like I guess it creates a sense of like entitlement with kids. They feel like entitled to certain things because their parent like, and I don't think like I feel like for with parents, I think it's like more of like they're trying to protect their child's like self-esteem, but that's not like they're not grounding it in reality.
No.
So
Those people that they're, who protect their kids from any sort of cold or scratch, or they're the first ones who are going to get very seriously sick when they're older. Like, you almost have to go through that
Yeah.
to build
Yeah.
an immunity to it.
yeah,
And it's hard as a parent to watch your kids fail and to, the other things that need to happen in their lives
Yeah.
for them to become the people that they are.
So how kind of like I don't know if it's been over an hour, but how can men confront their pride and ego issues?
I think we have to have self-reflection in everything we say and do,
Mm-hmm.
and look at our motivations. Like, what are we doing this for, and why are we saying this? Are we doing this for self-promotion, which sometimes is okay, right? Or are we doing this because we want people to believe something, or we want to get over on somebody? There has to be a lot of self-reflection on the reason for the ego and for the pride, because they're not
Yeah.
always negative.
Yeah. I think if we examine why we're doing something, I think that helps with like not doing things for like surface reasons or just doing things out of just I think some people like do things because it looks good on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but like if you ask them like do they really want to do it, then it's like no.
Right.
But it should be more of I'm doing this because like I feel like a passion for doing something or like conviction for doing something.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I think Thomas Merton, talks about the fact that it's really, really difficult for us to sit in silence.
mm-hmm.
And those people who can sit in silence often don't do it the right way. And
Yeah.
and going back to the reflective part, sometimes I think maybe one takeaway from this is, why don't we try to sit in silence for 5 minutes and reflect on our pride and our ego,
Yeah.
and really take an assessment of how, what we're going to do to move forward. Right?
Yeah. I think men don't realize their pride and ego. So I think just reflecting on where there have been times where I've like my ego or pride has been triggered, because it usually shows up like for me it shows up like in anger or like I feel like a sense of like shame about something. So that I feel like if we reflect on where it shows up, then we're able to confront it and like kind of like and deal with it in a healthy way. So, yeah. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I've just been listening, just gathering,
Do you have any?
because I think it's important to kind of listen sometimes.
Yeah.
No, I think this has been great. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, I feel like I think this is definitely something that's different. I've never out of all the things we talked about, I think pride showed up here and there, but like I feel like this is good because I feel like a lot of men have like struggled with pride and ego, but I feel like even noticing it, like I think it starts with just noticing it. You have to notice it because it for a lot of us is not very obvious. I feel like it shows up like relationally and also shows up like in our how we view ourselves. So
And how we treat people.
and how we treat
Yeah,
people.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been good. I don't know how to stop that.
Did you give your conclusion?
Yeah. So thank you for listening to Men's Couch. We talked about pride and ego, and it was very insightful. So feel free to, if you like what we talk about, feel free to subscribe and listen to more episodes.
Bye.